Good morning. This tutorial will go over finding X and Y intercepts with the calculator and changing your viewing window. As you notice on the paper, I have two equations. The first equation I'm going to use for finding the Y-intercept and finding the X-intercept, and the second equation I'm going to use for changing the viewing window. If you notice, from before, we should know how to plug in the equation into our calculator. So we start by, to find the intercepts, we start by plugging the equation in the calculator. We hit your Y equals button. First we got to turn the calculator on. That would be good. Then we hit the Y equals button. Then we're going to hit 3x plus 5. So we type in 3x plus 5 and hit graph. In order to find the intercepts, we've got to make sure that the intercepts are in the viewing window. As you notice, the x-intercept, or the point where the graph crosses the x-axis, is in the window, and the y-intercept, the point where the graph crosses the y-axis, is in the window. So we can go ahead and find our intercepts using the calculator now. Algebraically, what we are doing, to find the y-intercept, all you're doing is plugging x equals 0 in. To find the x-intercept, what we're doing is simply plugging in y equals 0. Now, in order to find the y-intercept on the calculator, we're going to use what we call the value function. That's new. To find the x-intercepts, we're going to use the 0 function, which is not new. Now, to use the value function to find the x-intercept, or the y-intercept, we do the following. You simply hit second, calc, 1 for value. Now notice down here it says x equals. Now we're going to plug 0 in for x. This feature can be used not only to find y-intercepts, but to also to find different x values of the function. All we need to do to find a y-intercept is plug x equals 0 in and hit enter. Notice it gives x equals 0, y equals 5. So the y-intercept here is the point 0, 5. Now, later on in the course, we're going to be using this to find other values other than x equals 0. Okay, I could say x equals 1, x equals 2, x equals 3, whatever I want to plug in for x, it's going to give me the y value for that particular x value. To find the x-intercepts, algebraically, you just simply plug 0 in for y and solve for x. With the calculator, we're going to use the 0 function. Like I said in a previous tutorial, you have to do the 0 function for each x-intercept. In this case, we only have one, right here. So in order to find that x-intercept, I hit second calc again, 2 for 0. We got to mark the left and the right bound as before of the x-intercept. So we use the left arrow to go to the left side of the x-intercept, hit enter. Use the right arrow to go to the right-hand side of the x-intercept, hit enter for guess, and it tells me the 0 is 1.66660. Okay, or it's the point, round it, 1.7, 0. Notice the results. I'm not writing the result as a number, I'm writing it as a coordinate, xy coordinate. This is coordinate 0, 5, this is the coordinate 1.70. That's how you write x and y intercepts. To change the viewing window, we're going to use the y equals 10x minus 30. So the first thing I need to do is graph that. Again, we do that by hitting the y equals, clear out the old equation, plug in 10x minus 30, hit graph. Now in this case, I'm changing the viewing window because there's a small value for x, but a very large value difference in y. So, if I look at the standard settings, to look at the standard settings, I simply hit the window button. The standard settings tells me what the minimum, the maximum, the scale is for both the x-axis and the y-axis. The current settings, or the standard settings, is the low bound for the x-axis is minus 10, the high bound for the x-axis is plus 10, and the scale, which is the difference between the tick marks, is plus 1. For the y-axis, y-min is negative 10, y-max is plus 10, the scale is 1, and this x-res you don't have to worry about. Now, just for the sake of showing you how to do this, let's make this a smaller window. Let's change X-min to a -5 and X-max to a +5. All you have to do is go into each of these settings and change the settings. Pay attention to the minus sign though. You don't use the minus sign here. You got to use the minus sign in the lower right hand corner when you're changing it. So if I want to change X-min to a -5, okay, I make sure I'm highlighted I'm in the X-min field. I put a -5 and just arrow down to the next one. I'm going to make X-max a +5. Just change the scale and I'm going to keep at 1. Y-min, because it was such a short window, I'm going to make it larger. I'm going to make Y-min as a -20. I'm going to make a Y-max as a +20. And I'm going to keep the scaling the same. To look at the new graph, I hit graph. Notice the changes here. Notice the changes in the scaling on the x-axis and the y-axis. Okay, this is going from -5 to a +5, and it's going from a -20 to a +20. So the graph isn't quite as steep. The graph is typically the same. It just looks different because the scaling on the axes are different. This is how you change the window settings or the scaling on any particular graph. This concludes this tutorial of the graphical calculator.